In front of me, it's Tata Anton Thorip from Action SA. Tata Anton, and Bola just about the state of as a statue of the Duncan Village massacre. I saw you move around so now while you were busy doing the programs Zako Zalape Duncan Village. Tell me about your interest in that statue.
Msasazi eyokuqala iDuncan Village ndiyayazi kudala ndisiza apha beke ndazo nakwesi sikolo ngaphambili, and iDuncan Village neGompo yindawo ebalulekileyo eMonti. It's like a transit zone phakathi kweMdantsane neMonti, and abantu bazohlala apha kufuphi emisebenzini, and imeko bahlala kuyo imbigqitha kumdaka apha and kubi. And xa ubona apha emva kwam bendiyoyibona laa statue kucacile ba ivandalayiziwe. Ngoku xa ndifunda ipiece eshekileyo phaa icacisa uba abantu baseDuncan Village bebesabela impendulo katata Oliver Tambo ngo-1985 esithi they must make apartheid institutions ungovernable. Bayenza loo nto ke abantu baphakama. Ngoku xa bazama uvala ibhorho ukunqanda amapolisa angene eDuncan Village badutyula abantu bayi-31, abanye banengozi. Now into endikhathazayo kakhulu ngale nto esiniyibonayo apha phaa ivandalayiziwe indawo eyindawo yongcwele. I mean, it should be a sacred site. It should be a site that people really appreciate and respect. Into enkulu iseCangwekhusile Comprehensive School. Abantwana bazawufunda ntoni phaya? Ngumzekelo onjani lewo ukuthi aba bantu bebelwela inkululeko bayayikhahlela inkululeko bayiphethe ngezandla qha bayimoshile laa ndawo. Kujojwe kuthuvi phaya igraffiti, amanye amatye abiwe, steps ezi zophulwe kubi, and to me it's reflective of istate karhulumente wethu lapha eMzantsi Afrika. Iske ngathi i-liberation struggle bayimoshile completely ngoku. iDuncan Village ibifanele ibe indawo bizawuphakanyiswa ngulo rhulumente wethu, kodwa bayilibele kwale Duncan Village, and la memorial ebekwe phaa elalitye nalamatye ukuthi siyabakhumbula aba babehambe phambi kwethu sibalibele. In fact, we have destroyed it, and that to me is just symptomatic of what's happened in this country. Our government no longer respects where they come from. They no longer respect the responsibility that they have to uplift people in this country. And it was quite by fortune that I came to meet you here and with some local people that I went to look at that statue, and it's a tragedy, and it's reflective of our state of our society in South Africa.
Tell me, Mr. Trolip, apa Duncan Village, you had a program that Buzoyenza for Action SA. What plans do you have for Duncan Village as Action SA?
Well, eyokuqala mhlekazi, Action SA ngumbutho omtsha. Khange sigqatse kulo nyulo odluleyo apha e-Eastern Cape total. So ndiqale ukusebenza apha ngo-1 kaMarch. Umsebenzi wami ukumisa ii-branches kwi-structures kwi-wards zonke apha jikelele kwi-Eastern Cape. Size apha namhlanje kwaDuncan Village because sinayo i-activist uMax ubize mna ukuzodibana nabahlali apho ubakhuthaza uba basifuna inguqu nyanyani funeke siyivotele siyisebenzele loo nguqu kule meko sikuyo. So uAction SA sebonisile kwezi ndawo beke sacontesta sonyulo kuyo uba siza nento entsha. Noherman Mashaba, the politician entsha eMzantsi Afrika, is not contaminated with all the other contamination of long political association. Uzmisele yena ba, he was successful in business, he was successful as a mayor, so babini bezimeyors, yena eJoburg, mna eNelson Mandela Bay. Besibonisile so babini pha into ziyakwazi ukuguquka ba unabantu bazimisele ukuguqula imeko. And it's not just me saying that. All the ratings agencies and all the assessment departments, even Treasury was giving Joburg and Nelson Mandela Bay more money because we were spending the money effectively and efficiently. So we've proven that we can do things better in South Africa and turn government around. Sizmisele ngaloo nto singu Action SA ngumoya omtsha apha kwi-political establishment apha eMzantsi Afrika. I've said that the state of affairs in Duncan Village, in Buffalo City, in Nelson Mandela Bay, in Joburg, eTshwane, Kurle, Napinana, is the result and the responsibility of the current political establishment. Wonke imibutho ahlala kule council apha eBuffalo City mabathathe responsibility ngale meko sikuyo. Uyayibona le Duncan Village kuyanuka kumdaka abantu baphangeli, and the Eastern Cape is the worst province of all when it comes to unemployment. They have 48% unemployment in this province. The expanded definition is close to 54%. So that means elegum to esbina kaphangeli apha kweli phondo. And despite that, the ANC has the highest support of all the provinces. Says Mr. Getina say utala support pansque 50% apa kwel pondo. Ngoba abantu deserve better than what they have here now.
Yes, Jaguva, Mr. Trolip. On the other side, abantu balapha khange bavote majority yabo ngenxa they have no confidence in political party. They have no confidence in politics. They want jobs, they want houses, they want electricity, and they want water. To change their mindset so that I think to support your party, what will be the plans of Action SA to make sure you're not just speaking, you do what you promise the people?
Yeah, I think, that's actually the point why Herman Mashaba actually started a new party. I mean, he saw that the people of South Africa have had enough of politicians. First, they started distrusting politicians because politicians have stolen too much money. We've seen with state capture, we see every day on TV, urhwaphilizo into ya namhlanje. Bonke abantu baphila ngorhwaphilizo kurhulumente nakwi-politicians. So uzimisele yena ba uzawuza nento entsha. Mna bese ndi-retired leader kwi-politics ndemka kwi-DA ngezizathu zam. Ndayohlala phansi wandikrwexa uMashaba wathi mhlekazi nyana uthetha uba ubuphelele ngeenzamo zakho apha kweli phondo. And when I asked myself, I did say I've had enough, but I haven't done enough. So I'm back in politics, trying to do what I can to change the situation around. But once people started deciding that they dislike politicians, and 53% of South Africans did not vote in this last election. Mna noMashaba sizimisele bachukumisa aba bantu la 53% ukuthi nansi into entsha, nansi into ungayikhola ukhololwe ngayo. Because what he has brought, he says he's going to bring ethical leadership. Now ethical leadership means that you must lead by example. Ube nesibindi ukuthi hayi kugxa wakho otyayo imali ngorhwaphilizo. To kick people out, to fire people, to hold people to account. And hiyo lento ndiphume kwi-retirement yam ndathi ndawuhamba nawe Mashaba nabanye oogxa bam kwa-Action SA because we're going to do things differently.
Eyona nto iyenze abantu abaninzi from Joburg nalapha eIlandikeni nalapha eEastern Cape to see a future in Action SA, it was the very sensitive issue of illegal immigrants. And politicians, they're ducking and diving about that, and no one had a stand of handling that part of illegal immigrants that are SA citizens that are saying these people, especially when they are illegal, they are doing this and that, and they are taking this and that out of the SA people. So do you think, or do you still, with you in the Eastern Cape, are you going to continue to make sure the South African citizens, their rights and their welfare of them is taken care?
Okay, well, I want to give you two examples about that. First of all, Mashaba was the first politician in South Africa to actually take steps against illegal immigrants hijacking buildings in the center of Johannesburg. He cleaned those buildings out. He said these buildings don't belong to you. This is an illegal activity and you are illegal. So he cleared those buildings out and he turned them into social housing, which is one of the greatest needs for poor South Africans who live on the periphery of cities. They've got to travel to get work. So he created social housing in the middle of Johannesburg. And that was innovative. It was new. He grasped the nettle. So he actually did what had never been done before. And interestingly, people called him a xenophobe. But here's the thing. He led by example. Then all of the parties started talking about illegal immigrants. The Patriotic Alliance started raiding shops. Malema went and checked restaurants, who was working there. And interestingly enough, Herman Mashaba charged Julius Malema in Parliament for breaking his oath of office when he encouraged people from neighboring nations to come into South Africa through creative ways, illegally, because he said South Africa is open to everybody. Iparlamente yethu ayinamazinyo. Yinjanje engenamazinyo. They let him off the hook. So Mashaba has taken that decision on review, because when you become a member of Parliament, You swear an oath to uphold the Constitution and all the laws of the land. So when Malema says people must just come in creatively or illegally, that is an abrogation of his oath. Says we are saying we're against illegal immigration, because if you're here illegally, you're undocumented, we don't know who you are, you're not paying tax, it's a problem. And it's not only a South African problem, it's a problem all over the world. People don't want illegal immigration. So we're saying, and I made it very clear with Herman when I joined him, I asked him about whether he agrees with legal immigration, and he does, because we live in a global village. Scarce skills are needed all over the world. People come legitimately to other nations to live and work, and we have no problem with that. And my daughter, for example, works in Amsterdam. She has a scarce skill, but in Amsterdam she knows she has a permit to be there, she's documented, she pays tax, and they know how long she's been there and when she has to leave Amsterdam. And ayonto efani yaseMzantsi Afrika sonke sifuna loo nto sinje sihambe njengomthetho. And interestingly, 2 days ago in the Johannesburg City Council, the mayoral committee member for economic development, Action SA member, he tabled a motion for a new informal traders policy in Johannesburg. It was passed. It makes provision for where there's informal trading sites provided by the municipality that only South African citizens can trade there. So we are doing through action what we talk about, and that's why Mashaba went to court against the IEC to say, when they brought the name of our party on the ballot paper as ASA, a single ASA, we're not like a failed airline like SAA, single Action SA. So what we say is what we do, and what we do is what we say.
Masibulele Mr. Trollip ngexesha lakho, but there are a lot of things around this the action that was taken by Mr. Mashaba, because presently, although we are running out of time, presently we've got Dudula, Operation Dudula, we've got Patriotic Alliance, we've got all sorts of people. But what the EFF is saying, Action SA, when we talk about the illegal immigrant, are we not only targeting African immigrants? Are we saying all the immigrants? There are Indian immigrants, there are white immigrants, illegal immigrants. I'm talking about illegal immigrants. There are Chinese illegal immigrants. There are all sorts of immigrants, Bangladeshi immigrants that are here in SA. So, Action SA, are you targeting African immigrants?
Look, I want to be very clear. I'm not here to speak for Julius Malema, because I actually don't even know what he stands for. One day he says one thing and does another thing the other day. I'm not here to talk about the Patriotic Alliance. Their bullying tactics of going into people's businesses and pulling stuff off the shelves is just completely unacceptable. The law does not make provision for that kind of thing. We believe in the rule of law in Action SA, and we're saying that any illegal immigrants should be dealt with like any other country in the world. You're either made legal and you reapply for your legal status, or you must leave. It's as simple as that. Any, of all color and all persuasion. The problem with the EFF is they see everything through a racial lens, and that clouds their judgment. We don't see anything through a racial lens. We're the only party in South Africa that is organically multiracial. And I use the word multiracial advisedly, because we come from all backgrounds, all political backgrounds, ethnic, language, and once you accept that we are a multiracial nation, then you can be non-racial, because then you respect each other. The problem with the EFF is they don't do that. So really, I'm not here to speak for Julius Malema.
The last question, Mr. Trollip. If we're fighting illegal immigrants here in South Africa, we know where they're coming from. They come from the borders, and the borders are not manned. Action SA, what can be done to make sure the borders, when we deport the illegal immigrants or when we take them out of the country, fly them out, what will be the best way to secure our borders?
Well, look, first of all, we don't have enough police in this country. They don't get paid well enough, so they're part of many of the problems. They're part of, human trafficking and all that kind of thing. So we need to have a proper police force. They need to be proper paid. They need to be properly respected. But instead of deploying soldiers into our communities, the government should deploy soldiers onto our border. That's what soldiers do. Soldiers protect the integrity of a country, and they do it at the borders. I spent 4 days in 2019 traveling down the Limpopo border when I was representing my former political party, and they endorsed that. It was part of my program. So funnily, that's not xenophobic, but if Mashaba talks about illegal immigrants, it's xenophobic. I never saw a soldier. There is no fence left. People just come across the Limpopo River every single day in their hundreds and thousands, and they just do it on a daily basis. So we don't have a border with any integrity, and we don't have deployment of Defence Force personnel on our borders. So if we respect ourselves as a sovereign nation in Africa and in the world, we should have a border that we can defend, but we don't have that.
Lastly, I always say lastly, it seems like
no problem.
It's nice this conversation, Mr. Thorley. We saw Botswana, we saw other African countries deporting illegal immigrants. We saw UK, we saw European countries, we saw Americans deporting illegal immigrants. Why is it when South Africa tries to do whatever that is done internationally presently is seen as xenophobic?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's been any effort by the South African government to deport people en masse. In fact, to the contrary, over the last 20 odd years, our borders have been open. People have been welcome to come, documented or undocumented. They just come and do as they please. So I think the responsibility for this mess that we're in with undocumented illegal immigrants is with the ANC government. That is their responsibility, and they must fix it up. Aaron Motsoaledi is trying to do something, but you know what? He's a Johnny-come-lately into that department. The ANC has been responsible for Home Affairs for all the years gone by, so they need to fix the situation. And you know what I fear most about organizations like Operation Tutula? Out of frustration, communities are rising up and doing their own thing and taking the law into their own hands. That is always potentially really disastrous, because where does it stop? First of all, you stop people in the street and you ask them for their passport or their ID. If they haven't got it, they say, hey, and then they chase them out, and then it can potentially get completely out of hand. That's why that the state that is responsible, the police, the military, the Department of Home Affairs, the people that are responsible for law and order must carry out law and order activities, not citizens. Once citizens do that and they dress up in quasi-military uniforms and they're wearing bulletproof vests and that kind of thing, it quickly can become an issue of incitement and result in violence. And that's the tragedy of what happens. We've seen what happened in Rwanda. We've seen what's happened in Bosnia-Herzegovina. We've seen what happened with the Nazis and the fascists in Italy. Nationalism brings out the worst of human beings because people are making decisions. You're not dark enough, or you're too white, or you speak a different language, you come from a different religion, you're either with us or you aren't with us, and if you're not with us, we're going to take you out. That is a recipe for disaster, especially in a country as diverse as ours. So kubalulekile basiziphathe kakuhle apha kwelizwe, sikhahlele imithetho. Aba bantu banenxaxheba ukuqiniseka ba imithetho ilawuleke, they must do their work. And urhulumente wethu uthanda kakhulu uhlala ezandleni bebona ba ilizwe likekele.
Mr. Trollip, last message for the people of Buffalo City to introduce your presence in the Buffalo City and in the Eastern Cape. What can you say?
You know, all I can say is that I spent 38 years in my previous political organization. I never ever thought that I would leave that organization and join another. In fact, while I was in that organization, bendikhuthaza abantu ndisithi kubo ababotshelelwanga kule mibutho wabo sikhululekile sonke ngenkululeko ka-1994 nomgaqo-seko siphila kwidemokhrasi. Ngoku into endibaxelela abantu namhlanje bendibaxelela ndibakhuthaza bona ndabona nam ndiyakwazi, because the art of politics is to change somebody's mind. And I have a mind, and I've changed my mind. I believe that Action SA best represents the future for South Africa. We're a new political organization making a new offering to South Africans, and I believe that South Africa is ready for a political organization like ours.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Thank you very much. I'm going to write to the people that I know in Department of Home Affairs. I'm going to get their feedback. I'll send it to you. Your telephone number? Okay, first of all, I think it would be important for me to take note that you are a cameraman. You wrote a story about this lady who had a linked ID number with somebody else, and you didn't just leave it there. I think that's the essence of real service, community service. You can't just write a story about some problem and then just leave it. You've done your work. So thank you for bringing me here. This lady, Vuyokazi, applied for an ID in 2004. Then she had a child and she went to apply for a child support grant, and then there was a problem with her ID because her ID was linked to another Vuyokazi Nako from Lusikisiki, and she was resident here, not Lusikisiki. Then she went through a whole process of having the IDs changed and delinked, and they changed the last 6 digits of her ID. Kept the date of birth, which is also wrong, but they said they couldn't change that. But they changed the last 6 digits to differentiate between herself and somebody else's identity. And then when her daughter turned 18, they had to make an application for the daughter to get an ID, to write matric and to get a job and all of those kind of things. Then the daughter is still linked to the deceased lady. And that is a problem, because it's going to affect the daughter's progress in trying to achieve anything, because you can't get anything done in this country without an ID. So she's gone through a lot of difficulty, and even her own marriage's status is questionable because of this ID issue. I'm going to write to the Department of Home Affairs. I've got some contacts there that I've dealt with in the past. I'm going to give feedback to her from the National Department of Home Affairs, so that when she goes to the local department, she can marry the feedback and make sure that she's not being told stories, because it appears that she has been told a lot of stories. And she lives in very difficult circumstances, and this situation is making her circumstances and her daughter's circumstances even worse.